Munich, Madripoor, Latvia, not to be confused with Latveria. The boys are going international. And with a Prison Break, a Dread-style hit squad, John Wick gun fu, and a Walter White secret laboratory, are we sure we're in the right franchise here? But whatever, just shut up. Don't question anything and enjoy the absurdity that is episode 3 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Welcome to MCU Pod, a companion podcast to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm your host, Grant Davis. Mike is away in an alleyway investigating some vibranium balls. But we are joined once again by the TVDudes.com and owner of Rogues Gallery Comics and Games comic shop here in Round Rock, Texas, Mr. Randy Lander.
Heyo.
Randy, thank you for joining us. I'm gonna need some comic book expertise here.
Oh, I got thoughts.
Oh, nice. We are joined by yet another TV dude from the TVDudes.com podcast, our buddy Kyle Scott, Mr. Kyle Scott.
Gosh, great to be here. Thank you for having me. This is going to be fun.
Thanks for joining us. And then we're joined by my buddy and indie comic creator from hypercastle.com, Will Cardini.
Hey, everybody.
Or do you prefer William?
Will's good.
Mr. William Cardini.
Mr. Cardini.
Just my friends call me Mr. Cardini.
Gotta get the respect.
Tonight we're going to be discussing, as I mentioned, episode 3 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And every week we broadcast our episodes live via YouTube right here. So if you can, we'd love to have you guys join us by going to youtube.com/MCU Pod and absolutely obliterating that subscribe button. Just smash. You can also hit that little bell icon. That's a notifications thing. So every time we do go live, you're notified. And you can come join us on the show. Join us on the chat. We appreciate you guys popping in. Like Rich Murphy here to say hello, all you beautiful people. Hello to you, beautiful Rich. And a few more notes I'm going to go through as we allow people a little more time to jump into the chat. Yeah, you can subscribe to us. I already hit that. You can find us over at mcupod.com. A way to help out the podcast is to go and rate and review us over on Apple or wherever you listen to your podcast. But it seems like most people listen to us over on Apple. So if you're already listening to the podcast there, just go and give that 5-star rating, write a little review, give your thoughts on the show. Nothing too cruel, hopefully. And we appreciate all of the support there. If you guys are feeling like going the extra mile and you guys want to give us some financial support, you can go to patreon.com/MCU Pod, and there you can make a monthly pledge of $2, $5, or $10, allowing you to join the Defenders at the $2 range, the Revengers at the $5 range, or the Avengers at $10. Just this last week, we did a little Snyder Cut review, Mike and I, and Rich Murphy actually joined us from Patreon. It was a lot of fun. And the other day I got on just to give some drunk rambling thoughts on what was going on with the Flag Smashers. So patreon.com/MCU Pod. We appreciate the support. All right, let's go and dive into this week's episode. Power Broker, pay attention to that name, is the third episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, written by Derek Kolstad and directed once again by Carrie Skoglund. The synopsis, the IMDb synopsis for this episode is: to find the source of the super soldier serum, and alliteration there, Sam and Bucky must scale a ladder of lowlifes, starting in Madripoor with Zemo. It's a little confused because Zemo, they found him in jail in Munich. But whatever. We start the discussion the same way every episode. And I hope you guys are ready for some snap judgments. It's time. We're going to let Will, you're going to go ahead and kick things off here. Give us your snap judgment. What do you think of both this episode as well as the series thus far, since you haven't been on an episode before?
Of the big 3 plot lines, superheroes versus aliens, superheroes versus androids, and superheroes versus wizards, I'm at aliens or wizards, or preferably alien wizards kind of guy. So I wasn't necessarily looking forward to this show as much as something as like WandaVision or Endgame back when that came out, but I've enjoyed it. I was kind of, it didn't have that same hook of the gimmick that WandaVision did, but it's just like a really well-crafted show. And I'm enjoying the bromance frenemy bromance between Sam and Bucky. And I also appreciate it kind of taking a look at racial justice and speaking about some of that a little bit in there, more than maybe I expected it to. So, and this episode was great because you also brought Zemo into that relationship between Bucky and Sam, and he was kind of a good third person for them to bounce off of. And all those scenes were really entertaining. And then it was really cool to finally see Madripoor. I used to read a lot of Wolverine comics back in the day, and he's always hanging out there, and seeing it on my tiny screen was nice.
Kyle, what was your snap judgment?
Gosh, overall for the season, I gotta say, initially going from something like WandaVision to this, the most jarring thing tonally was like the color palette, because WandaVision had like such a like rich color palette, and this is just like not only completely different, darker, but the same, for all of these episodes, just from like a visual standpoint. But it didn't take like the 2 minutes to see like the interactions between Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie to realize like the lethal weapon of it all. And it really reminded me of like a time when these buddy cop action movies weren't sold necessarily by the names, which is kind of funny to say about this because, Marvel is so insanely popular. But it does seem that over the past couple of decades, the buddy cop action movie has been dominated by like, big name celebrities. Let's pair them up. Oh, it's Samuel L. Jackson and Ryan Reynolds. Like, who cares if you don't remember what the movie's about? You know who those guys are. And this is like, no, I'm remembering all of these beats. I love the interactions with these characters. And then all of the rich like layered on top of that is just even more fantastic. This week's episode, getting to see Zemo finally, so scared it was going to be one of those things where the entire episode he's sitting behind like glass, doing Riddler stuff at us the whole time. Mm-hmm. To see like the whole reveal about how he gets out and kind of joins our team. And then even if it might have been cheesy for a moment to see him don the mask later on, I was just like suspension of disbelief, be damned. That was so awesome to kind of see him put like kind of a more action smackdown. Overall, just really great. And kind of like a redemption for Sharon Carter in terms of like, oh no, this character has some dimension to her.
Right. Yeah. Randy, what do you think?
So, how not everything can be for everybody? This, I feel like, was made 100% for me because it's like a mixture of Mark Gruenwald's Captain America, which is one of my first comics that I ever fell in love with. It's buddy cop action movies, which I adore. It's the Captain America universe, which is some of my favorite sub-universe in the MCU. And then we go into like crazy espionage, like Wakanda secret agent territory. It really is like they're like, hey, what did Randy like with the Marvel Universe? Let's do that. It is. I am full on in love with this show. Every episode, I love it more and more. I can't believe some of the nods we're getting to sort of semi-obscure comic stuff, and I just absolutely love what they did in sort of, like Kyle already mentioned, fleshing out Sharon Carter and fleshing out Zemo, who both were good but sort of one note. They were there to serve a very small part in a bigger story. And in this, they are big parts of a smaller story. And I think that makes a huge difference.
Randy, I don't want to get you too excited, but my understanding is that this is a backdoor reboot for Terriers, the TV show. Well. So
I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
Just so that it hits on everything you've ever wanted.
It's like everything I ever wanted.
Before I jump into my snap judgment, we got some from the viewers. I was going to hit on some of these. Rich Murphy says, Daniel Bruhl should be allowed to chew as much scenery as he wants.
Hell yeah.
Gurren says, I felt like I was watching an episode of Alias. I missed that show. Zemo stole the episode. Will Morris says, Sam casually name dropping a super soldier in the presence of someone who kills super soldiers seems like an odd choice.
Not when you realize that Sam doesn't like that super soldier.
Nicole Jackson says, there was way too little of Sharon, and I'm rather annoyed that we still don't know anything about Carly. I mean, I think we know a little bit more, but yeah. And Rich has one more. I also really appreciate that they're letting the different worlds cross rather than having the heroes siloed off into their own works. I was not expecting that Wakandan ending.
Neither was I. I thought that was going to be a name drop.
Spoilers, yeah.
Oh yeah, by the way, we're gonna do spoilers. That's gonna happen. For my part, I think that overall there's a lot of fun in this episode, but for me, it required a bit of suspension of disbelief because they were pushing through plotline and some silly shenanigans were happening with the prison break and with just a few other sequences that I was like, what? Okay, all right, fine. I'll let it go. But I don't know. They are put on alert as everyone in Madripoor be on the lookout for these two guys and kill them. There's a bounty. And Sharon's like, hey, just hang out at my party where bad people steal art and shit. Come on. Whatever. I just thought the part was ridiculous.
Grant, that was at Hightown. Hightown and Lowtown are very different.
I guess.
They covered it.
They did. They covered it. It's one line.
All right. Well, let's start there. Let's start with not there. Let's start with the prison break. The boys go over to visit Zemo, and Bucky pulls a complete bait and switch of like, hey, now that we're in the building, walking down the hallway, really about to see him, something I could have told you a long time ago, I'm going to go in alone. Sam going, what? You could have told me out in the car. You could have told me before I drove over here. Hanging out in Munich. But yeah, what'd you guys think of the prison break sequence? Will,
it would have been a really entertaining. Well, I was going to say it would have been really funny if that whole sequence ended with shit. He brainwashed me again. Dang it! Why didn't I see that coming?
You're definitely like worried about that,
right? Do you think that there was this moment where they were in Madripoor and you see that Zemo has activated Bucky to fight all those people, and after the end of it, like Sam has this like genuine moment of like brotherhood, like friendship, where he's like, hey man, are you okay? Because he knows that like him moving into that mode, even though he's not actually active, is something to be on the lookout for, like as a friend. And I felt that moment. I was like, oh, that's good that he's checking in on his buddy and making sure he's okay.
Yeah. Well, and it's like when they're back home, they can be at each other's throats, but it's like when you're in the middle of it or where you're surrounded by like all these seedy people, it's like, oh yeah, you're kind of my brother in arms.
Yeah.
I mean, basically what I had to take away from that prison break scene is they clearly did not want to dedicate a whole lot of time to explaining whatever machinations they needed to justify getting him out of there.
No, it was fast. It was a Fast and the Furious style jailbreak. It was the whole point of it was to do a fun little sequence, but like they could have skipped the whole thing if they didn't want to do that fun sequence. Because basically the whole point is, Zemo's out of jail and with us now. Like, don't think too hard about it. We're just going to go on.
Yeah, because I was like, wait, did Bucky go there twice? Like, did he come back, or did he like go back and deliver the library book later? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Did he already have this little rolled up note? And why is Bucky, a person who was a world-known assassin, allowed to walk through Gen Pop of prison with a bunch of prisoners? Like,
pardon, man. Those pardons are crazy. You gotta be careful.
It's very binding. Yeah,
I guess, but he like already had a rolled up note to like drop and instigate a fight, knowing that the whole timing. Whatever. Like I said,
it is kind of maniacal to think that Zemo had this whole plan and he had this one little rolled up note. I'd like to think he had like 50 notes, like all tucked away, like for different people who come. He's like, oh, let me make sure I got the right one here. Okay, Bucky.
Yeah, if that guy had pulled up the note and it said, "Do you like me? Yes or no? Check this box." It would have been really embarrassing. Just, oh shit, I got the wrong note. Damn it.
Give me that one back. Give me
that one back. Here, give me this one.
Yeah. So
you think
good.
you think Zemo like orchestrated all that? Because I wasn't sure if it was like Bucky, that was all Bucky's idea, or Zemo's idea.
I thought it was Bucky. I thought Bucky did the whole thing.
It seemed like it was Bucky, especially when he says, "Hey, what are you reading?"
Yeah.
He's basically leading Zemo to, "Hey, go check out your book, because I slipped something sneaky in there." It was, of course, a Machiavelli book.
Which, by the way,
which actually, that book is much smaller in real life.
Yes, it is.
It's like this thin.
Yeah,
I feel like that was just a little fuck you from Bucky. He's like, yeah, you read Machiavelli, of course you do. That's who you are.
Yeah, I totally thought it was Zemo who orchestrated that. I guess I missed the cue on it.
No, just Zemo was ready to go ahead and. I mean, I get that Zemo is a highly capable, like he was a special ops guy, even though he was a Baron's kid who's flying on private jets. He also is able to cause a lot of destruction, as we saw in Madripoor at the with all the whatever boxes.
Yeah,
shipping containers.
Boxes. When he blows up everything and like has the mask on and everything. He's capable of being, going toe to toe with some of the deadliest like killers out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess sure he can steal a jacket. Was there anything unique about this jacket that he stole, Randy, that had the back that was like Justice?
No, that's just the name of the guard. I think that was because we see him later. Yeah,
I thought maybe you were gonna like be like, well, in issue 247.
No, but the costume he does wear, his like fur jacket, that is such a great nod to his costume in the comics. I was so happy to see it because they didn't really give him any kind of costume in Civil War, and in this he's got the mask, and he's wearing like a purple shirt. They definitely did a nod to the Baron Zemo in the comics. It's not quite as outlandish because that costume is pretty out there, but I love it. But it's pretty out there. But it was the good sort of MCU nod to that costume, I thought.
So is he just wearing a purple ski mask, or was that because it was like in that car, right? So he was that ready.
Yeah, I bet it's supposed to be like his family mask or something like that.
Isn't the gold gun part of the costume too? Because he had in the car the gun.
He did, but I don't think he picked it up, did he? We never saw him use the gun.
He left it. Yeah,
he did have that golden gun. Wait, so a family mask, like when we saw this mask in the car, it was very structured, right? Like it had a built-in front of the face. Like it's not necessarily a ski mask, but it's also weird because his whole thing is he's kind of anti-masked superheroes. So for him to don a mask himself seemed a little bit contrary to his whole mission statement.
But I don't think it's the masks. I think it's the superpowers that he has a problem with.
Yeah, it does look like those when you see the behind the scenes on Spider-Man and he has the eyes popped out of the mask. Like that's kind of like the shape of it. It's got the form, but you're like, oh, they're exposed. It is a crazy idea though that he was royalty of a country that no longer exists, but he still has all the money and all the resources of that former position.
Man, I love though that he's Baron Zemo because that in the comics he's a German baron. He's Baron Zemo, and I love that they got the name in there. That was a clever way to do it.
Rich says that justice in German is justice.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense.
There you go. Maybe this is justice that he's getting out of prison because he was the good guy in Civil War, right? How do we feel about how do you guys feel about Daniel Brühl's portrayal here and Baron Zemo, I guess?
So I do have a glaring question. I think Mike's brought up on one of the previous episodes though, but when we last saw him, he was suicidal. He was listening to that voicemail. He had a gun to his head, and then T'Challa stopped him from killing himself. So there is a question like, what is his motives? When that guy goes into jail, like what happens in jail where he's like, okay, no, I want to come out and be a supervillain again. It does seem like kind of a little bit of a soft reboot for the character. Like this is what I would imagine the character would be like from the stories in the comics. But it does seem like it's a little disconnected from Civil War.
I thought they did a good job of swerving into that because in the comics, he is the grandson of a Nazi war criminal. his whole hatred of Captain America is based on his father getting killed by Captain America, and he's a very different character. He's like the South American Nazi guy, and so here,
dressed like a South American Nazi right here.
Here, his whole motivation is that super soldiers ruin the world, superheroes ruin the world, and so it feels like the way you get that guy out of his like sitting in jail, stewing, his mission's completed, but he was ready to die, is to go, hey, there's like 20 super soldiers and a super soldier serum out there. Do you want to help us stop it? I thought that was the perfect way to get him out.
That makes sense. Motivated. Yeah, that's a really good point.
I like the actor a lot. I think that Will, you were talking about it in your snap judgment, how he plays off of Sam and Bucky. It's a great three-way dynamic because both of them are brothers that are just kind of snipping at him, and now they both have a foil to kind of direct a little bit of that hostility toward to unite them. But at the same time, Zemo in a way feels kindred to them. Like we've all gone through a shared kind of a trauma, and there's something relatable about all of them that it doesn't feel like in a lot of other I think like another 48 hours or something, 48 hours.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like we're dragging this nuisance of a bad guy that we have to constantly berate the whole time. Instead, it's just kind of like there's respect there.
Zemo's the Joe Pesci. He's from Lethal Weapon 2.
Oh, okay.
I adored the scene on the jet where we find out that Bucky's notebook, it's not just like Cap's notebook. It is Cap's notebook, that's what he's carrying around.
Right.
What a great reveal. And I love that Zemo has listened to Trouble Man. And he's like, no, it's genius. What are you? And Bucky's like, I liked it. I like my run gay. And I love Sam having to be like, oh, God, it's Zemo, but he's right. He's right about Trouble Man. Like that was such a great little sequence, and it was such a great little character moment.
When he's like, "Oh yeah, it definitely captured the African American experience." He's like, "Oh hey, you're out of line," but actually dead on.
But you're right. Yeah, shut up. But you're right.
Yeah. The whole exchange there was great. But I thought one of the more poignant exchanges between all of them was right at the very end when Zemo he's reflecting on what happened to Sokovia afterwards, which I think this might be the first time we really learn about this. That Sokovia, after it was, rubble and they're trying to rebuild, it was already like attacked and divided up by the neighboring countries. So Sokovia itself is like no more. It is an afterthought. And not only that, but there's a memorial, and he says like to Sam and to Bucky, like, did you guys ever even go visit that? And they just kind of nervously are like, "Oh, nope."
They should have been like, "I was gonna, and then I got dusted. I couldn't.
Totally, man. I got it in my notebook here.
I was like, it's on my notebook." He's right.
Ultimate
real fast.
excuse.
But that little exchange there seems like such a continued like condemnation of what superheroes are, and they don't reflect upon the wake of chaos that they're sowing in this world, which is in a way further justifying Zemo's whole outlook on superheroes.
Well, and that's a nod to Civil War too. You remember one of the moments with Viola Davis coming to Tony Stark and basically kicking off the whole thing with, my kid got killed in Sokovia, or my kid got killed in the Wakandan embassy, or wherever. No, it was Sokovia, wasn't it? Wherever he was.
Yeah, it was Sokovia.
Yeah,
he was
in Sokovia
on a trip.
Yeah, and my kid got killed there, and you guys don't even know his name. And I think that's an interesting nod to basically that Civil War was all about like the consequences of superheroism, and that they want to make the point that neither Cap nor Tony was entirely right or entirely wrong.
Wasn't there a big shift with like kind of superhero movies doing this large scale destruction when Man of Steel came out, and they just like leveled the city? It's like, I feel like after that, the internet has always been like, what about the bystanders? How many people were in that building? Now you have these throwaway lines where it's like, oh, we had to clear the city. Or in the case of Sokovia, like that whole sequence was them evacuating people from that city before they just blasted it.
I think that's one thing that this show's doing really well is just exploring the consequences of these insane superhero events. Like the blip, in the comics, when you read Infinity Gauntlet, everyone just forgets about it. It doesn't even matter that happened. And then here they're really doing some world building about what it would be like if people left for 5 years and came back, and, the whole GRC and all that stuff.
Yeah. Do you think that they shot that stock footage, or do you think they got that stock footage from different websites for that introduction GRC video? Because I've never seen these stocks before, and I go through my fair share of stock footage.
Right.
Marvel just creating stock footage.
By the way, the GRC, what a great idea.
You mean as far as like the show, or like
for the show?
Yeah.
The notion of sort of one of the big questions that came after Endgame was, everyone was like, wait a minute, so people came back, or like, did people get remarried? What happens if you blip back into your apartment? Like, they're actually dealing with they say though, like, it was a great thing that happened, but a lot of people didn't come back, and a lot of people came back to much difficult situations. And I thought addressing that in a semi-realistic way, without getting into, the planet rotated, so they all reappeared in space and died. Like that, I don't need that. I don't need that kind of realism. But the hey, maybe you came back and your wife was married to somebody else, or maybe you came back and someone else had your job because they assumed you were dead and moved on. Like, I like the idea of a big council, a big like global thing that is this trying to fix that. It feels like the kind of thing we've seen with disaster efforts and pandemic efforts and that kind of thing in the real world. I thought that was a nice nod.
Would you like it as much if you knew this goober was an operative of the GR?
Man, that scene where the dude spits in his face, Wyatt Russell is looking scary.
Yeah,
like I'm starting to see the character turn happening.
And what a great way to contrast him and Steve Rogers, because Steve Rogers would never have been that guy. He would never have like thrown a random shopkeep against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Nor would Steve like try and swing not only his dick but the country's dick, as far as like, who you just spat on. This is American.
Yeah, it was a very this is how a spec ops soldier is different from a World War II frontline soldier like Cap. They definitely are showing the difference.
And I mean, he's got this intensity that I'm curious how it's going to continue building here, if we're just kind of seeing these glimpses. But they're also just like dabbing this in, and the writers are trying to push us and make us unsure of how to feel about the character, right?
Something weird about the mask that he wears. I think one of you guys pointed out, like, he looks like a goober. They make the eyebrows like really bulbous.
Yeah.
But when that mask gets in the dark and you don't see those eyebrows and you just see his eyes, it actually looks kind of scary. Like in that scene where he gets spit in the face, it's like kind of a clever, because I kept looking for the goobery part of the mask, but they have him lit so funny in a lot of these. I think whenever it's in the dark and you just see the eyes, it's more menacing. It's
great costume design, because you can have him be the goober you want to punch in the face, or you can make him look sinister. And the way you shoot him and the way you light him is important. Yeah.
We got another crazy theory here from Dennis McElwain, who says, do you think New Cap will be a cross between Nuke and US Agent, like the MCU has done with other characters?
Okay, if we want to talk theory, I actually have one. I think that John is going to get badly injured in the next episode or two, and is going to realize, maybe thrown down with Flag Smash or whatever. And I think he's going to decide he needs super soldier serum. I think that's what's going to send him on the sort of unstable path that he goes in the comics. And I think that by the end of this, he will wind up being like a free agent, like US Agent.
What about how they talk about how they did tests on him or something like that in the previous episode? Mm-hmm. And he's already like basically superhuman. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are some theories like he's a mutant, or like maybe he already had some other kind of serum or something. What do you think about that?
I think he's just got to be sort of peak human. I think that he was supposed to be like the best, special ops soldier kind of thing. I had thought maybe that it was like that he had already gotten his powers from Power Broker, that it was a secret, and they were just lying about it. But I don't think so. I think I think we're gonna find out that he has limits, and he's gonna get hurt real bad.
If I could tack onto your theory, they have shown, I've seen like some stuff, the footage of when Sam gives the shield to the Smithsonian, you actually see in the foreground like an injured vet or like somebody who's got their beret on and is in a wheelchair. And it looks a lot like those leaked photos that we saw of a U.S. agent when he is like kind of like all beat up and stuff. So I'm wondering if it's exactly what you said, but maybe it's happened before this.
Maybe.
And it coincided with them getting the shield back. By
the way, Will Morris in chat correctly calls me out. Viola Davis is Suicide Squad. Alfre Woodard is the State Department in Marvel Universe.
Says you get one, Randy.
He's correct. He's correct. Look, they're both government badasses. All right.
So while we're on the subject, we were on the subject of the GRC. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the Flag Smashers, because we were discussing before how we might have them a little bit incorrectly defined. Like we're assuming they're just like this big bad villain, but then we saw the local townsfolk calling them Robin Hood.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fighting against a world where, there was 50% extinction on the planet, and the world had to move beyond these artificial borders of nations to just survive and work with each other. And then you get to the point where everyone shows back up, and it's back to same old, and I can understand some people being like, no, fuck that. That's So I think then we were kind of left in this position where we are like, are we rooting for them?
Mm-hmm.
Is this kind of like New Cap? Are we rooting for him? Is he good guy, bad guy? But then we see a scene where they not only steal a bunch of stuff, but she's like, and we're going to bomb it for good measure and kill a bunch of people because we have to make this serious. We have to up the stakes. If you really want to, there's no half measures here, Randy.
They did a good job of setting them up as like, hey, you know what? The notion of like a world without borders, that's not the craziest notion in the world. And yeah, they're stealing from stockpiles, but they're given to refugee camps, and they sort of be of the people. They're doing a little bit of that Antifa thing. It's like, oh yeah, maybe they make the government uncomfortable, but they're probably pretty much good guys. And then she just blows up a bunch of people to like, oh, okay then.
Right. Nicole Jackson says, I think Carly's going in a bad direction, becoming what she hates, because that's all they understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of feels like that, right?
Well, there's an interesting thing with the super soldier serum, which whatever's like inside you is elevated. So when the Abomination gets it in the Hulk movie, he had like all this, rage and resentment inside him, and it just blew up.
Mm-hmm.
And when Steve Rogers gets it, he's like this wholesome person that just explodes. What if she had like this little dark side inside her that she didn't know about, and now it's starting to come out because getting the serum, it's bringing that part of her out.
Well, if you go back to First Avengers, Erskine says that too. Cap, when he's talking about Red Skull, he's like, the serum elevates what you already are. That's totally MCU canon. Yeah.
And that seems like most normal people, they have a little bit of that in them, and it's always like, tamping that down. This seems like an opportunity for her to like, let her freak flag fly.
So
freak flag fly.
When they're in Latvia, I don't think I even wrote down the name of this character, but the person they were trying to find that ends up dying in Latvia that Carly's beside, is that her mom?
Well, her name's Donya Madani.
Donya Madani.
It's very unclear what their relationship is.
Yeah, it seems like maybe a mentor or a mom or adoptive mom or something like that. Yeah.
But are we all supposed to read that Carly and the rest of the Flag Smashers were basically muscle for hire in Madripoor, and that's how they came across the doctor who was able to kind of remake the super soldier serum?
Well, it seems
she ganked him.
It seems like she was working for him. It seems like, they were working for him as muscle for hire or something. Maybe she was an intern. I mean, we don't know. We have no idea.
Right. Do you think we're gonna get like a Lost style flashback then? And like
Maybe, but I feel like we know all we need to know, so I'm not sure.
I do think the identity of the power broker is going to be a big reveal. In fact, I thought we were going to get it this episode, and yeah, it took me a minute, but it was like, oh nope, not this one.
Grant thinks maybe we did, and I think he may
I'm
be
gonna lower
right.
my eyebrows here. I raised them up a little bit high.
Grant has a theory on
Ooh.
who the power broker is, and I had the same thought. It's a very different way to go, and I'm not sure if I like it, but it's a very interesting idea.
I would
Baron Zemo?
Nope.
I would like to bring up this image
Oh.
nothing.
Oh,
Maybe.
I've been on Reddit.
there you go.
But I would like to say the name of the episode was Power Broker, and yet seemingly we didn't seem to see the power broker show up, although rumored. And then we get a very interesting scene with, oh, by the way, Sharon Carter shows up, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she seems to be in a very powerful position in High Madripoor, or whatever you called it.
High Town and Low Town, yeah.
And she also has this very curious exchange. She already knew like the guys were showing up, like Sam and Bucky. She's there ready.
Yeah.
With it, like maybe she had someone else to be the sniper looking for them, and then she's elsewhere, like ready to pick them off. I don't know. It seemed like she was just like very conveniently in the right places at the right time for those situations. But then later she gets in the car with her assistant or whoever's driving, and she's like, oh, we have something to discuss. That seemed a little bit bigger and heavier. It seems like she's a bigger player, like puppet master here in this whole scenario for me, which made me think maybe she's a power broker.
So Sharon Carter did have a period. She was dead in the Marvel Universe for a long time. And then Mark Waid brought her back as she had been left out in the cold by S.H.I.E.L.D. and she had become sort of this embittered spy and came back into Steve Rogers' life, and slowly but surely became like his girlfriend again and became a S.H.I.E.L.D. operative again. But for a long time there, when she first came back, she was like this embittered spy who hated S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything it stood for because she left out in the cold. And it feels like that's where they're going with this. Like she got abandoned by all her friends and just thrown out, and nobody came for her. And the notion of like her going bad and becoming power broker, man, it turns that character into a very different character, but it'd be kind of badass.
I mean, I don't know. Like when she's talking about like, do you guys know what happened to me? Y'all left me pretty high and dry.
Yeah.
And I was feeling for her at that point. I'm like, yeah, they did. Like, how do you come back and be like, oh, she totally was instrumental in helping us to survive, and yet she's just like having to lay low in Madripoor while I was able to return back to society.
So my only question about her, if she's the power broker, doesn't she help them find the scientist guy?
Maybe she wanted him gone.
But why would she? Because she can't make any more power, any serum. Like that's her business.
Well, think about Breaking Bad. I mean, that, by the way, this felt a lot like Breaking Bad.
A little bit Breaking Bad. That was definitely their super lab. Yeah, for sure.
But Giancarlo Esposito, I'm blank. Oh, Gus. Think about how he ended up putting hits on his own men, right? There's some other strategy at play at a certain point where you read the situation and you're like, okay, either I can maybe return to power and I can leverage what I have back in the States if I am granted immunity again, like in some sort of like kingpin way, or maybe the play is that like we already have what we needed from this guy. If you guys eliminate him, instead of that being on me, that deflects that sort of attention. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I also think that the power broker potentially could deal in a lot of different ways of gaining power, not just the serum here. So in one way, it could be like, hey, he just lost me, 12 hits of the super soldier stuff. So I need to go and focus on some of these other ones. Because I think in the comics, the power broker kind of divvies out some more like exotic powers. Didn't the Falcon get his power from the power broker in the comics?
No, he didn't.
No. Was it
Flores?
Falcon
I was going to say. The second Falcon?
The new Falcon. Yeah, you're right. He did. He did. You're right. Yeah.
New Falcon guy.
Yeah. I didn't take notes, but I researched.
So it could go that way.
It could.
Now, Kern's saying, I'm thinking the power broker may be the Zola All
AI.
Zola AI.
Yeah,
That's a question
interesting.
for you, Randy. What's that?
Now,
Yeah.
Zola AI was in Winter Soldier. Remember, it got blowed up.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was what's his
Toby
name?
Jones.
Toby Jones as the
But
robot computer dude.
it's hard to fully kill an AI. That would be a bit of a deep cut, but I'd kind of like it. What
We-
is for sure? Power Broker is not going to be a random dude in a suit like he is in the comics. I think they're definitely not going that route.
We had a total Westworld season 3 when everybody was like, "Get these guys!"
Yeah.
and they're trying to escape, and the cell phones are all going off.
Rich Murphy says it would be in the Power Broker's best interest to direct Sam and Bucky towards the Flag Smashers. She might not have been able to foresee what Zemo would do, though they should have.
They should have. I foresaw it. Come on, we all knew he was going to kill that guy, right? The last thing Zemo wants is more super soldiers. He had the gun out. I knew he was going to kill that guy the minute they found him.
I love that not only did he kill him, but then went, whoops, that was a one and done.
I'm good now, guys. You can totally trust me.
Yeah.
Trust, but I'm good now. I just had to get it out of my system.
By the way,
I'm kind of buddies on the plane.
I'm surprised they're still together. I thought that once the thing blew up, that Zemo was going to flee and just that he was out of prison and we'd never see him again.
Because he put his whole costume on. It's like, okay, this is his moment.
Yeah, I thought he was gone, and they came back for him. Like, oh, okay, all right.
Right. Can we we're kind of bouncing around here because I wanted to jump back and talk about Madripoor itself, but you did mention the entire thing exploding, and then these guys roll out like just dust their shoulders off, no injuries.
They're superheroes, Grant.
The lethal weapon
Sam
of it all.
isn't. Sam doesn't have powers.
Superhero, he's the Falcon.
Yes, but
all you need to do is have a code name. Sharon is Agent 13 or possibly the Power Broker. They've all got code names. Explosions can't kill you if you have a code name.
I need a
code name armor
really bad. Oh man. Okay, so let's go ahead then and jump back to Madripoor.
I was so happy. I was so happy to see Madripoor.
It was cool seeing it. It is like a really fully realized, almost has like this kind of like cyberpunk vibe going on to it, with like all the neon colors and how everything just pops there. It looks gorgeous, and it was a lot of fun. Like here's a picture of Madripoor from the comics. I think we pulled up before as well.
I got kind of an Akira vibe from that beginning scene where they're like going under the bridge, and then the like biker gangs come in.
Yeah,
you know, and then like you're saying, like it definitely has this cyberpunk aesthetic, which I think that's cool.
Yeah, there was always a little bit of sci-fi in the original Madripoor stuff that Claremont and Buscema created in the Wolverine comics.
For sure.
Super cool. We then see the crew with Sam wearing such a I wish I had a better picture to show of Sam's outfit here.
I loved this.
It's like this just fantastic gaudy suit. It's really loud, and he's like, "Oh man,
a Smiling Tiger."
He's playing a guy named Smiling Tiger, which Randy, you provided this image.
I forgot. Kudos to Entertainment Weekly. I had forgotten this. He sounded familiar. I'm like, Smiling Tiger, I recognize that. This guy was from one of the comics I read in college, The New Warriors. He's a member of a bad guy group. I think they're called the Shining something. No, the Folding Circle. He's a pretty. You want to talk about deep cuts? This is a like. There's D-list. This guy's E-list. Like. That is super deep cut, and I'm here for it. I mean, I loved that. So,
yeah, I thought the scene where they go up to the bar and the bartender's you want your usual. I was immediately reminded of the Ghostbuster line of if a god asks you. Wait, now I'm forgetting the line.
Someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
You say yes. If you're in disguise and someone says, "Do you want the usual?" you say no. You don't know what you're in for.
That was an Indiana Jones moment where he cut that snake. I was like, stuff's gonna start crawling on the counters. You gotta eat it with chopsticks.
He's like, this is, oh man, I love it.
Yeah.
What I
love is Zemo just shooting it. Didn't think about it. They really made Zemo pretty awesome in this episode. They made him a guy. They fleshed him out a little bit. They're like, yeah, okay, so this guy did kill T'Challa's father and like killed a bunch of innocent people. Like, he's a bad guy, but instead of that, other than that, he's pretty charming, and he's
fun.
He treats his butler / pilot well, so
they make together about giving rotten food to Sam and Bucky. It's fun.
It's pickled.
Dennis says, did anyone see some of those Easter eggs from Mad Report? Which
yes, indeed.
We have some shots here. Which there's a bar called Princess Bar.
Princess Bar. This was when Wolverine takes on the Patch identity at Mad Report. He owns the Princess Bar, or I think if he's not the owner, I think he's like the co-owner, or he is the. It's the Humphrey Bogart riff. It's just a Humphrey Bogart riff.
Okay.
It's a Casablanca thing.
We also see this place, which got a purple monkey on here.
Yeah, the Brass Monkey.
Okay.
Which is apparently comes from a Mark Gruenwald Captain America issue, which is funny because I've read most of that run and I don't remember it at all. So it's another pretty deep cut.
Okay. Well,
that's an awesome logo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a Twitch stream logo or something.
They had some really cool monkey skulls in the bar too. Like the whole set design for it was like, definitely we talk about this doesn't look like a TV show. This looks like a movie. Like that's one of those levels where like the set design is super cinematic.
Yeah.
Will Morris says Sam was pretty bad undercover. He brings his phone on an undercover op. Oh right, the guy who got his butt kicked by Ant-Man.
we weren't supposed to tell Cap about that.
I rewatched that whole scene because after watching the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and that whole scene where he's fighting Ant-Man is just classic. It's so good.
Yeah.
So after that whole thing goes sideways, which I thought it was like a weird kind of gamble already to be like, oh yeah, you can have Bucky give us information.
Bucky was definitely not on board with that plan. Like,
I know he was like,
but like, wait, what?
I'm cool with this, but I love now I'm blanking on the actor's name who plays Bucky. I love his performance in
Sebastian Stan.
But he was great last week when he had to like be like emotionally vulnerable in that therapy scene, and then here like how he just kind of switches to this kind of dead-eyed like aggressive soldier again. The guy's great, and
he is.
Everyone in this cast is super captivating, and I would just like to remind you once again how awful Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is.
Yeah.
God,
I did think it was an interesting juxtaposition because earlier in the season we get the scene where Bucky's like, "What's the plan?" And it's like, "Great, we have no plan." So kind of this episode capping with like, "Oh no, now it's Falcon who doesn't know the plan." Like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna roll with this," but you kind of have to just hang on.
Yeah.
When they talk to when they go through whatever path leads them to that doctor, I guess they got the little intel, and the doctor says this like he first off says this line of like they're threatening him. And he's like, "Well, how about you give me a better offer?" They don't really do that. I thought there was going to be something else interesting going on there with this guy when he kind of does this counter. I'm like, oh no, he just wants to be like bought out by something else. Highest bidder, or whatever.
Yeah,
sure. But no, he ends up dying. But before that, he's talking about he talks about how the reason they were able to get to kind of reinvestigate the super soldier serum was they got blood from another soldier, and I guess what they're alluding to, as was pointed out by Sam later, is that it's Isaiah again, Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah, that's where the super soldier serum comes from. Yep.
Because like I guess they had access to Cap's blood, presumably. And that wasn't something that they were able to figure it out from, but they were able to figure it out from Isaiah's blood.
Well, because Cap's blood was stabilized by the Vita rays, and then they lost him. So they only had so much of his supply to work with, and you assume they destroy it when they're working with it. So somehow they got enough to give Isaiah the serum.
Oh, and that's what he was talking about. Like they because he says that line, they took my blood. But
Yeah.
it was more like they were like taking a lot of my blood.
Yeah, he was like basically in a prison hospital, and they probably would come in. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the hospital for an extended time, but they take your blood like 5 times a day.
I've never been to a
So probably he was in the prison, and like a couple times a day, someone would come in and take a whole bunch of his blood, and probably for years they did that because they needed a bunch of blood to make it work. I'm wondering if we're going to get a flashback to that, or again, if they're going to decide this is a like, you've got enough information, you don't need to see it. You don't actually need to see it.
I mean, there's only 6 episodes.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like much of a flashback show. So I got the impression that Isaiah was like a test subject, and then they used like the results from him to give the serum to Steve. You think they were trying to like recreate another one?
I think so. In truth, in the comic, this is all based on. Yeah, the super soldier serum was developed by kind of a Tuskegee experiment that was basically done to African American soldiers against their will, and Isaiah was like the success, and then they used that to perfect the super soldier serum and give it to a white soldier because
right, of course,
yeah, because that's how the U.S. government rolls. Yep. And I think in this one they're going a little different. It feels to me, and I could be wrong, but it feels to me like Steve was in fact the first success, and then they did take his blood. During Captain America: First Avenger, they were taking some of his blood when he was doing the tours and all that stuff, and that's one of the things they were doing was trying to recreate the serum. It was like that's what they thought he was good for. So they had some of Steve's blood to try and develop a serum with, and it seems like that Isaiah was their only success. But I don't know. Again, all this is fuzzy because also somehow Hydra has a version of it that they used to make the Winter Soldier and those other Winter Soldiers. So they're a little fuzzy on the details, and I don't know if we're going to get a full evaluation of it.
Wait, I'm speaking of fuzzy. I don't fully remember how the Hulk got his powers, and if that was related to Captain America.
He was also trying to recreate the super soldier serum.
Yeah, but I think the Abomination, he got his powers from like a canister that Ross had that said Weapon 6 on it. Yeah. So the idea is that Cap is Weapon 1.
Yeah.
I guess Isaiah is like 1.2 or like,
or which Weapon 2.
Yeah. Depending on where he came. No, I do think I agree with you. Like that would be intense if Isaiah came before Steve and they kind of retcon that, start to the MCU there.
Yeah. That was, like I say, in the comics, that's what they did. I feel like in the MCU, they want to make Erskine and the Super Soldier program a little more noble than that, and they probably don't want to go quite that dark with it, quite that real.
Right. Yeah.
That would be weird if in the universe they cancel Erskine. Like, how you thought he was lovable? He's canceled now. No, he's actually being racist.
Right.
Nicole Jackson's got a great parallel. Isaiah equals Henrietta Lacks. I thought that was
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then Rich Murphy says Howard Stark had a trunk full of super soldier serum as well.
And that's the one that they used to make Winter Soldier, and I don't know where it came from, unless he was working with Cap's blood somehow.
Right, that worked for him, but then it was also a failure for everyone else in Siberia, right? So like the only person who didn't have like weird rage issues was Bucky.
Yeah.
But they sure did channel some other rage issues into him being a murder machine forever.
Yeah.
That is kind of crazy to think that, given the whole, like, it elevates whatever's inside of you, you could only use serum on people from, like, the 1940s who, like, don't understand the, like, horrible reality like modern people do. Right.
If you've ever had to deal with Twitter, we can't give you super soldier.
There's so much rage in you.
I am a huge fan of the MCU, but I think this is one of the places where you can look at the comics versus TV or movies. The comics have so much more room to explore this, that the nature of the super soldier serum and how this all works. There would be a mini series explaining how this all worked. Like they would get into every detail because they got a lot more room to work with. Here they've got to do some shortcuts, I think, and so you've got to let people just kind of think about, well, where did that come from? Don't worry too much about it. Then we may explain it later.
Right. And we don't want all those details anyway. I mean, it's better to have some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
We want all details.
You want it like Lost, where they tie up every question with a neat little
No.
How dare you? How dare you? Guys, Randy's got to go for a second.
Kicked out.
It's a funny joke until I have to go and rearrange all the panels again. The sequence where they are at the shipping containers. I was about to say, big boxy thingies.
Yes.
And Sharon Carter goes full John Wick.
Love
and
it.
is just mercilessly slaughtering these guys. Was fucking badass.
Yep, it was amazing.
I was watching that and I was like, whoa, this show is a lot more violent than most Marvel shows. And my daughter comes around the corner, she's all like, what are you watching? I was like, get the fuck out of here.
Come on, female empowerment, Dad.
I was like, can you please gently leave, is what I think I said.
Yeah, Sharon Carter really gets her due in this episode. Like, she gets to be the badass. She's the one who knows everything. She's got resources. She's selling art to bad people. It's seeing her go this sort of like black market was interesting, and it lends credence to the whole power broker theory.
Yeah,
that's what I'm leaning toward, unless it's a little bit too heavy-handed, just because I know that like Marvel loves to do the red herrings.
Old Steve Rogers is the power broker.
Oh, you heard it here.
He's sending down super soldier serum from the moon.
There you go.
He got it from the Inhumans.
We know
where's
who's the real power
Mephisto?
broker. Yeah, there it is.
No, I told you, Mephisto is the boat.
He can change form. He's got plenty of time.
Mephisto is the boat and the power broker.
I think I saw the boat in one scene in Madripoor.
Well, Mephisto can travel pretty far.
In that brief sequence that we get where Sam's talking on the phone to his sister, you could see for a second he's all like, oh shit, I got this. I can be super smooth and suave. And like, playing off everything. It just like keeps going sideways.
Yep.
We're talking about, I love the part where like she mentions Cheerios and everyone in Madripoor is like, no tough guy would know someone who eats Cheerios. You're no smiling tiger if you know someone who eats Cheerios. It's too much. Okay, so I guess like the last part we have is really kind of talking about this last scene where once again they are at this point of contact that they gotta go talk to, and Bucky pulls a quick switcheroo and says, oh, I gotta go take a walk. All of a sudden they're like,
they were weirdly okay with him taking a walk in the middle of an op. Like, it's like,
yeah,
what? You're taking a walk?
Fucking.
What if there was a lock on the
Bucky.
door? Like, how do you get in behind us after they let us in? Like, we can text you the code. Like, what's the plan here?
They have a bathroom up here, Bucky. If you gotta go.
Yeah.
Nah, guys, I gotta go. I gotta go listen to some My Chemical Romance and just like dwell in my thoughts or something. What are you doing? But the big reveal is that he's finding all these little beads that I guess
Kimoyo beads.
The what?
Kimoyo beads. They are the one of the big Wakandan technologies there for communication.
If you're poor or rich, everybody has them. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like their iPhone.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're big. They're big in the Black Panther. Like he uses them. Shuri uses them. It's a big thing.
Are they vibranium?
Yeah, I think they are vibranium. All their tech is
That's very
vibranium
valuable to just be kind of leaving a popcorn trail around. Hope that Bucky uses it. But anyway, we get the big reveal that this is Ayo, who we see in Civil War. I guess she was also in Black Panther, but
yeah,
she's hot on the trail of Zemo as well because fuck Zemo.
Well, he killed their king. Like,
and for Bucky to be like, let's break him out, it'll be fun. Even though he reactivated Bucky.
By the way, this was one of those things that every episode of this has some moments where I'm just like, I can't believe they're going there. I can't believe they did this. Episode 2 had a bunch that are just like, can't believe they're doing this. But I thought the Wakanda was going to be a one-off note. He mentioned they killed the king, and I thought that was going to be it. Like, we're not going to see Wakanda in here. And then he finds the Kimoyo beads, and I was just stunned that they were actually going to go there and keep expanding the story. It goes to show these guys are thinking about how interconnected this universe is and how many toys you have to play with. The MCU movies definitely did not leave any toys in the box, but they would go, but it was always very focused. They'd be focused on a 2 or 3 hour movie. These TV shows are a little more open-ended, and it becomes a little more like comics where they can do these sort of smaller characters. You can throw in a Batroc in there. You can bring in fucking Battlestar of all people. Isn't like I never thought I'd see Battlestar realized on TV, and you can have Wakanda show up just for an episode or two. Like they're definitely well aware that they have an interconnected universe of characters that people know, and they are playing with all the toys. And I love it.
Well, what do you guys make of her showing up? What do you think they're hoping to do with the story aside from just kind of examine the impact that breaking out Zemo has on Wakanda?
It looks like it's probably either an extraction or, well, I think if she's caught, it's definitely an extraction. I was going to say, or some type of an assassination attempt. Like once they got the information like that he was out, it's like, okay, we're not going to let him end up in some foreign prison again. Yeah. He's going to come back home, and I don't know if it's stand trial. I imagine that's probably not what, warriors with spears are thinking when they're hunting this guy down. But, whatever their version of justice is, they want him back in Wakanda.
Yeah, I imagine that she's going to drag him back to Wakanda to stand trial for killing the king, and it's not going to go well for him. Didn't go great for Claw, so.
Yeah.
That would be crazy to see a Wakandan execution.
I don't know. I feel like maybe she'll get roped into joining the mission as Bucky kind of makes an appeal to like, here's the situation we're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's actually been pretty useful.
I agree. And probably on the condition of like, but at the end of this, he goes back to Wakanda with me.
Yeah.
Right.
That's kind of what I'm
do.
Which, maybe actually will work out well for Zemo, because it seemed like after all the murder that Bucky committed, he found a place of healing out in Wakanda. He became the White Wolf for a bit, and it was good. And that was like the last place he really felt at home and at peace.
Man, if the last shot of Falcon and Winter Soldier is Shuri going, "Oh, you brought me another broke white boy to fix," I will be so happy.
Just him out of the tent, and they're like, fuck you, you're dead.
She's like, "What? Why? This is the third broken white boy you've brought me. I have other work."
Knowing MCU, I would not be surprised if the next episode is like entirely in Wakanda, and it just gives Ayo her own story where we like find out why this character is so badass. And now at the end of it, everybody's like, that's my new favorite character because they gave her so much time.
Yep.
Will Morris points out that Battlestar is played by Heroes vet Clay Bennett.
Oh yeah.
Whose career has survived Heroes. Yeah, okay. So I guess at this point, my question is, we're halfway through. We have 3 more episodes left. What do you guys, what theories do you have on the direction they're going? Kind of what are you thinking there?
So Carly said they had 1 battle left before fighting the power broker in that conversation with the other super soldier guy. I think his name was Dovich. And I don't think that what we saw at the end of this episode was that battle.
I agree.
Oh, right. That was just a heist, one of their regular go-to heists.
Yeah.
Right, because there was some big to-do made of like, once we do this move, there's absolutely no going back. And I was like, was it this blowing up this building with these guys? Because to me, that's bad. But for the stakes that they're playing at, that didn't feel like the extreme move demarcation line that I thought she was referring to in the last episode.
I wonder if there's somehow going to like democratize the super soldier serum. If they're looking for a way to release it to the public or something like that, that could be the big no going back thing. And if they're trying something, that would put them right at odds with Zemo and Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I wonder if that's something that they're working on.
I mean, there was a second where they were outside. What's her name? Carly
Morgenthau.
Yeah, Carly is hanging out with this dude outside of the gates of where the guards are.
Dovich.
Chatting, and if you look at the guards behind them, there's this X on the sign. It's like, is that
I saw that.
Is that a nod to X-Men? And when she's talking about like giving these kids at this camp, the super soldier serum, is this like them trying to like lead to X-Men?
No, it is not. No.
She also said you'd make a great teacher. I thought of myself more as a teacher, and with that big X in the back. So I'm like, is she gonna become an X-Man and be a teacher at the school?
So look, she's clearly gonna find the X-Men. Mephisto is the boat.
We're breaking it down. We're figuring it out. Perfect. Andrew Prince says, is it possible the Wakanda tie-in is the beginning of Marvel continuing the Black Panther storyline after the loss of Chadwick Boseman?
I wondered about that too, if they're going to throw in a nod to what happened to because we don't know what they've decided with T'Challa. We just know they're not going to recast.
Right.
So they could mention something about, we don't have a king right now and we need justice or something like that. I don't know if they will. I have a feeling this was all shot or planned before all that, but I don't know. I really don't know.
Was there talk of a Wakandan TV show like
there is? There's one in development. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That maybe this may be the lead to that for sure.
Yeah.
So here's one more question. Do you guys think that Sam's gonna get that serum? Because Will Morris says Sam needs that serum. You can't fight the big three without it.
Maybe it's another thing. It's been a big diversion from the comics because Sam has never had superpowers other than his ability to talk to his Falcon.
But if they do give him this, and then do you think? I feel like that would undercut his rightful place as the heir to the shield and what it means to be Captain America, is that he can own that without having superpowers.
Right.
If they give it to them, it's like being like, you were never worthy unless you had the same superpowers as Cap. And it's not about that. It should be about his heart. So that's I'm like, I don't know if they should do that.
I kind of agree. I actually don't think we see him getting the serum. I see him being offered it and turning it down.
Yeah, and I also think that what we learned from Black Panther and all the other discovery of like vibranium in the MCU is that the shield is kind of a superpower in itself. Like it doesn't obey the laws of physics. So even somebody without the powers can use that shield and do some pretty badass stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, any closing thoughts for you guys before we wrap this up?
I can't wait for next week, and I'm already sad at the thought that we're more than halfway through. I want this weekly until the end of time. I love this show. This is so much like it's the espionage Cap that Brubaker was doing, mixed with the Grunwald Cap that was my favorite. It is somehow like everything I want. It
is a buddy scenario that you love. With detective work, investigation,
unlicensed detectives. Yeah,
this is Terriers. There's no wonder you love this. For anyone who's unaware, Randy spearheaded a podcast that was a deep dive into the show Terriers, which was a short-lived one season and done show over on FX. And your podcast was Beach Cop Detectives.
Yeah, you can go listen to every episode, and you can watch it on Hulu right now, I believe.
But not the podcast, though.
No, not the podcast. I mean, you can try.
He's still trying to sell that show. Not the podcast, the
show. Kyle, Will, any other thoughts?
I definitely, especially piggybacking off what Randy said, would love to see the series end, however it ends, with Bucky and Falcon like walking away like completely tattered and like, bullets in them, like, limping away, just cracking jokes at each other. kind of like a version of the shawarma scene from Avengers.
Bad
Like-
boys or something.
Exactly. Whatever happens, I want to end there. Like that's my landing spot.
That's how you fly. From now on, that's how you fly. That's what we need. Will, how about you?
I'm just, I'm enjoying this ride. Looking forward to the next episode. I'm gonna wait and see what happens. Try and keep the theorizing to a minimum so I can be surprised.
Me too. That's my mantra. Never theorize. I love the theory so much. I'm gonna always theorize. All right. We're gonna wrap things up there. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in this week to join us on the pod. And just a reminder to those of you listening to our audio podcast that if you want to and you have the availability, we go live every Friday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time over on YouTube. You can go ahead and check us out, youtube.com/MCU Pod to subscribe. You can also check us out over on Twitter at MCU Pod. And you can follow us there to, get little updates. We did that little other reminder plug at the top, but I'll do it here again. That if you want to help us out, there are two ways. You can go and give us a 5-star rating and write a little review on your podcast app of choice, or you could also, I guess, just share this podcast. That helps a lot too. Tell your friends. But the other way is you can go to patreon.com/MCUpod and make a per episode pledge to support us. Thank you so much to you three for joining me this week on the episode. Starting with you, Will, where can people find you?
You check me out at hypercastle.com, or I'm on Instagram and Twitter at William Cardini.
Kyle, how about you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Mr. Kyle Scott. And then over at thetvdudes.com, also on all the social media with the TV Dudes.
Randy?
You can find me at thetvdudes.com and at roguesgallerytx.com, which is my store site. We also do a weekly pop culture podcast over there too.
And as for me, you cannot find me. I am laying low in Madripoor, hiding out from you guys. But we will be back next week to talk about episode 4. Got some more guests lined up. It's going to be a fun episode, and I hope you guys will be able to come join us. And I do not remember who in the chat recommended this last week, but I do have an excellent sign-off finally.
Oh.
So I'm going to have to find out at some point who actually suggested this. If you guys want to email me or put a comment on the actual video later, I'll see it there. But until then, we have our sign off, and that is MCU later.
Clap.